Talking about the measures that have been filed in courts to block the state's gun ban and registry. Now, 3 lawsuits, at least that I'm aware of, have been filed. 2 in state court yesterday, 1 in federal court late yesterday. We'll unpack some of those. We just heard about the 1 state-level court that was a lawsuit that was filed in the state-level court from Thomas Magg out of Crawford County. And he's actually requesting in that lawsuit, and you can see here if you're following along on video, he wants the court to declare that prohibitions on manufacturing, transferring, or possession of firearms is a violation, and wants to have essentially the state enjoined from enforcing that. So that's the ask from the attorney there, Attorney Thomas Magg. But a second state-level lawsuit was filed yesterday by Attorney Thomas DeVore, and this one is over 1,000 pages long, partly because it has over 860 plaintiffs that have joined that lawsuit, and it's rather lengthy. We got a long list of plaintiffs in that suit that DeVore brought, and I chatted with him yesterday about the crux of his case in state level courts, and here's what Attorney Thomas DeVore had to say, sharing his thoughts of the ban and his movement towards trying to ensure that it's not enforced and that people's Second Amendment rights are not infringed upon.
Well, the lawsuit was filed on behalf of 866 people who live in 87 of our 102 counties. So it's a good cross-section of citizens of the state. We brought the claim in Effingham County, to where one of our FFL holders has their principal place of business. And it really breaks it down into 4 different things, Greg, where we raise the 3 readings rule and the single issue rule, which again, those are going to be issues that are going to be eventually hopefully addressed at the Supreme Court level. But 2 of the immediate compelling arguments deal with the equal protection of the Illinois Constitution and the due process clause of the Constitution. Specifically as to equal protection, there's a whole carve out of people who are exempted from this bill. Now, we can't really appreciate why they're exempted out by looking at the public record, which is what you would typically do, because there is no public record, because of the way they passed this law. But ultimately, equal protection under the Illinois Constitution, it's the same under federal, but we're only arguing the state. If you're going to classify different groups of people in a law that's implicating a fundamental right, which this is, it has to survive strict scrutiny. And there's no way that you can say, well, if you're a prison guard or you're a jailer or you're a prison warden or Department of Corrections person, your individual right to bear arms as a citizen are intact, but everybody else loses them. It doesn't even make any sense. It's irrational.
So Attorney Thomas DeVore sharing his thoughts about the prospect of winning in court, state-level courts, to essentially say that this violates equal protection under the law, a fundamental right like the Second Amendment. You can't just arbitrarily say, well, we're going to allow that to apply only to this class of people, but not to that class of people. So that's really the crux of one of the arguments that Attorney Thomas DeVore is using in his state-level lawsuit. Again, includes more than 860 individuals from across the state as plaintiffs in that lawsuit that Tom DeVore filed. He also talked about what he's asking for, and he says that he has an emergency hearing set for today in Effingham County to possibly get some kind of emergency injunction on the enforcement of this law, which is in effect right now, absent any kind of court order. Again, Thomas DeVore about his lawsuit and what they're asking for.
Yeah, what we're asking for is the court to enter a temporary restraining via this case. My client's rights to bear arms need to remain intact. And when we argue that, Greg, we say, look, when you're balancing the equities of this to say, well, my client's rights should be infringed, but, I don't know how many people that those exemptions cover, tens of thousands of people in the state have their rights intact because the government chose to carve them out. You need to treat us the same as them, and our rights are going to remain intact during the pendency of this case. And so we're asking the court for an injunction that says that this law doesn't apply to them during the period of time that this is in front of the court.
And again, that's Thomas DeVore talking about his lawsuits filed on behalf of more than 860 Illinoisans across the state, challenging Illinois' gun ban and registry. So we've heard about two of the lawsuits earlier. We talked about the third one that the Illinois State Rifle Association filed late last night. I got the announcement about 10:30. We will talk more about that and hear from the Illinois State Rifle Association's Ed Sullivan. Talked with him yesterday before the ISRA lawsuit was finalized and filed. But we talked about just a variety of things, especially when it comes to multiple entities looking to sue and filing lawsuits. Does that water things down, or does that actually help the case of working to try to block this law from further being implemented? So we'll get to that coming up here. You're going to want to stay tuned. It is Springfield's Morning News on 92.7 WMAY. I'm Greg Bishop. Be sure that you subscribe either on YouTube or Twitter. Just search Bishop on Air. You'll be able to find it, and we can connect that way. But that'll definitely keep you updated on the very latest as we continue to watch and report on the progress of these lawsuits that are being filed. 3 of them yesterday. We got much more coming up here on WMAY.